flattering introduction. You're making me feel like a superhero. I assure you I'm not. Reality is far from it. Reality isn't just sunshine and rainbows. It is an equal amount of shit shows as well. I learned this lesson a little over a year ago when I jumped off a cliff in Switzerland, which was 530 meters tall. For your reference, that's the same height as a 150-story building. Now, instead of my parachute opening properly and flying me away to a beautiful sunny day, like any good story, it opened with a twist. And instead of flying away from the mountain, I was now flying into the mountain. Yeah, one more. Trying to use my superhuman ability, I did try to break the mountain down. The mountain broke me instead. In an instant, I shattered both my elbows, my left hand and wrist, and my femur, which is supposed to be the strongest bone of the human body. All of it was wrecked. And my ordeal was still not over. I was falling like a rag doll with the bottom of the cliff maybe 300 meters, 100 floors away. I thought I was done for, and the impact that I would have to sustain when I stopped, I was dreading that. When all of a sudden I came to a stop. What stopped me in the moment, I do not know. I know now that my parachute got caught in this one tree on this entire 530-meter cliff. Now I have to take a moment to think about this tree being present exactly where it was. If I had jumped off facing a slightly different angle, or if I had opened my parachute a few seconds later, what are the odds of this tree catching me? To me, this tree being here represents hope. We may not think it's there, I didn't, but hope had me. This tree hung on to me for the next 40 minutes while I waited being rescued. I was eventually rescued, brought down to the ground, given first aid, and sent to a hospital. I spent the next 3.5 weeks undergoing 7 surgeries. And from the very first day, I was heavily dependent on the morphine which they were giving me to manage my pain. Now, since both my hands were broken and one of my legs, I could not press the clipper and get myself a morphine dose. Yeah, that's me there. So they gave me a foot pedal, which I would press with my heel, and I would give myself a morphine dose. You can see it down at the bottom there. So this morphine, I could give myself a dose once every 8 minutes. I'd press the button, my pain would go away, and then 8 minutes later, I could set myself for another dose. So as the days went on, from surgery to surgery, I acquired some new body parts from like rods and hardware in my femur to some nice titanium plates, screws and nut bolts in my elbows and wrist. Eventually, I regained a little bit of movement in my hand. And one of the biggest surgeries which had the doctors concerned was for my left hand. That was the part of my body which had sustained the most impact during the crash. They wheeled me in for a surgery, they let me sleep through it, but when I woke up, this reminds me. My dependency originally was not just on the morphine. It was also on the kindness of my girlfriend, my nurses, anybody who would help me, because at this point, I don't even press the clicker, so let alone trying to eat a bite of your food, have a sip of water. Anyways, coming back to the surgery, when I woke up from that surgery, I was in excruciating pain. And at this point, I had already gone through maybe 6 or 7 surgeries, 5 or 6 surgeries. And I complained to the doctors and the nurses that I'm in pain. They said, don't worry, it's just post-operation pain, you'll be fine by morning. Somehow I got through the night in sections of 8 minutes. So I would press the morphine clicker, and the pain which was here would subside for a minute, minute and a half, and then it would shoot back up. In the next 7 minutes, the pain just would be skyrocketing, and I would be clicking that frantically like a maniac, but it wouldn't administer a dose until the machine reset itself on the 8th minute. During that night, I must have vomited maybe 7-8 times. And I complained to the nurses again and again, and they said, we have to wait for the pain medication doctor. When the pain medication doctor came in the morning, she also said, like, don't worry, a few hours more, it'll be fine. And it wasn't, and I kept complaining because my pain didn't go away. At one point, I remember complaining to a nurse, and because I had told doctors and the nurses that put me in a coma, knock me out, do anything, because I can't get this pain. It's more than what I had at the crash. Like, it was a lot more. And the doctors and the nurses said, we've already given you the maximum dose of pain medication you can get, we can't give you any more. So the nurse just closed the curtain and left me alone to suffer because she couldn't do anything. Somewhere around there, I figured that this morphine minute is not helping me because it's 1 minute of relief and 7 minutes of misery. So I decided to get off it. I decided to strengthen my resolve, fortify my mind, and just get off it. At least that way, even if my pain was here, it would just be here, and because I'm choosing to accept it, I can bear it. Instead of it being a crazy roller coaster where I'm depending again on that morphine to sort me out. I think around 36, 48 hours after the original surgery, when the doctors realized that my pain hadn't gone away, they wheeled me in for a CT scan, which revealed that there were a couple of bone fragments which they'd missed in the previous surgery, and from the bandages of the previous surgery that was compressing those bone fragments into my muscle, effectively causing me more pain, killing those muscles. Yeah. So they wheeled me in for an emergency surgery, sorted that out. Things got a little better. 2 days after this surgery, I was in the hospital bed, thinking about the stark differences in my life. Because just a few weeks ago, I was this high-functioning idiot capable of jumping out of aeroplanes, perfectly good ones, which would have landed 2 minutes later anyways. I was capable of jumping off cliffs, crossing mountains, just using an inch of webbing. And here I was, incapable of feeding myself. For the last 2 weeks, I hadn't had a morsel of food by myself. As I sat there in bed, I saw the hospital canteen staff walk into the room, and she handed out dinner trays to everybody, the 4 beds in my room. I observed the 3 other patients in the room could reach out to their tray, put it in, unlit the meal, dip their fork in, and start eating. I couldn't. I waited for the nurse to come. I think by the time she came, I was already in tears. But I asked her, motivated by my previous experience, desperate to gain a little control back in my life. I asked her if I can try and eat by myself. She said, sure. She helped me with the bits that I couldn't. She unlit the meal for me, set the table up. I grabbed the fork with my hand, and I struggled to bend it and get it to my recently operated elbow to come to my face and like take that bite. It was painful. Somehow I had a bite. Then I asked the nurse if she could give me privacy and I could eat the entire meal by myself. She obliged, closed the curtain, and left me alone with my meal. I ate that entire meal in tears. I wept with each bite. I suffered pain with each bite. It was the most painful meal of my life, but it was also the most prideful meal of my life, most memorable meal of my life. And this taught me that pain has a purpose. It gives us an opportunity to discover parts of ourselves we did not think we had, strengths we did not think we had. If we choose to accept the pain, sometimes this pain will fit perfectly into the rhythm of the task. Now the hope is not that I don't suffer pain. I know I have pain coming in some form or another. The hope is whatever pain and suffering I have to do, I do it with a little bit more grace. with a little bit more acceptance. In the same breath, I would also like to mention hope. I think hope is a double-edged sword. Hope is that tree which came out of nowhere and saved my life. But I couldn't be hanging on to that tree forever. It's been a year, I'll still be on that mountain. I had to let go at some point. Hope is that morphine, which for the first part of my journey in the hospital was necessary, it was medicinal. But at some point, the stronger tool to manage my pain was my mind. If I kept relying on that hope that this morphine will take the pain away, I would never discover the strength that we have. And if I can leave you with a thought, if you can identify what your morphine is, what your tree is, and I think the key for me and in life is acceptance. When we begin to accept whatever it is we're going through, whatever trauma, pain, failure, I think that is when our true superhuman strength and ability reveals itself to us. Thank you.